Good afternoon and welcome to Cracking Crypto, where we break down the projects in the Web3 ecosystem that are changing how we view finance. I'm Asher Westrop-Evans. Now, before we get stuck in, let's take a look across those crypto markets. And markets have absolutely surged over the weekend, with total market cap now sitting just under $1 trillion. Although even as we're looking at this now, markets continuing to rise, may have even potentially broken through that threshold. Bitcoin leading the charge among the majors, skyrocketing to over $21,000, while all the major alts rallied in double digits. The biggest gain, however, over the last 7 days coming from Solana, which returned with force, surging almost 80% in the last week and overtaking Matic to reclaim a position back in the top 10 coins by market cap. The previously beleaguered coin having seen steep declines in the wake of the FTX scandal, as the network had been one of the coin's biggest backers. However, not all are optimistic that this big upside move is sustainable, with some analysts suspecting these latest moves could signify a bull trap, a point out that nothing has yet changed in the underlying fundamentals of crypto markets. And on the note of skeptical takes on the latest crypto surge, we spoke earlier with Grant Patterson from Providence Wealth, who believes while this move is genuine, there isn't a lot to back it up.
It's a risk-on, risk-off trade. So I think if we see risk-on, which we're seeing now in equity markets, it's likely to attract, at a trading level, money back into cryptos after their very big fall. So, you know, if you want to trade that part of the market, good luck. And if the market's quite comfortable generally, then cryptos will probably regain some of the recent losses.
All right, and now to talk us through a little bit about what this growth in overall market can mean, but more importantly, what sort of projects are still being developed when it comes to the crypto space now, as we head into a bit of optimism, whether it be short term or ultimately proves to be the start of a longer bull run. Joining us now is Damien Chen from Drift Protocol. Damien, firstly, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here.
All right, so Damien, tell us a little bit, for our audience who are unfamiliar with Drift Protocol, what you guys are doing. Give us a little bit of an overview.
Oh, that sounds great. Drift Protocol is the largest decentralized futures exchange on Solana. What we're trying to build is essentially, if you'd imagine a Binance or perhaps the previously operational FTX, except on decentralized rails. So all user deposits, all trades, everything is visible on the blockchain with no oversight, or at least no single point of control and failure from the protocol itself.
Right. Now, I want to delve a little bit into what you guys are doing, some of the interesting projects you're working on. But before we do, just to touch off at the start, obviously we just heard about the impressive run in Solana, now up almost 80% in the last week. What's your take?
Look, as a Solana maxi, I'm really glad to see the token price appreciate. I think Solana's had a really difficult 2 months. If we look at the association with FTX and with SBF and the decline down to $8, I believe, it's been really hard for people within the community. But I think if we look at the underlying value proposition of the technology, nothing's really changed. Google Cloud recently announced them running a validator on the Solana network. That was announced in November. Solana still going ahead with the Solana Samsung Mobile in conjunction with Samsung. And Jump Trading, which is one of the world's largest high-frequency trading firms, is still launching Firedancer, which once released should bring Solana's transaction speeds up to over 1 million transactions per second. All this is to say that a lot of the price depreciation was reactionary as a result of FTX, and I'm really glad to see that the price finally start to reflect some of the adoption that's actually coming.
You paint a very positive picture when it comes to Solana and when it comes to development on the network as a whole. But that being said, we all know that when it comes to, particularly a lot of these chains that are operating, in conjunction, whether it be Ethereum killers or, whatever sort of the goal of a specific chain may be, it's often a battle for developers. Getting developers on the chain, working, building, dApps, whatever else other DeFi projects on the space, and making sure that that is getting its market share. Is Solana doing that, and what are you guys at Drift Protocol doing to help instigate and develop that?
Exactly. This is a perfect segue, actually. So Solana every year does these hackathons, and these hackathons are 1 week long programs that run across different countries. It's run by the Solana Foundation, whose sole goal is to increase the number of developers on the blockchain, like you said. This year, it's actually coming to Australia. It's the first of its kind, and Drift Protocol, alongside Magic Eden, is really proud to be supporting this particular initiative. What the hackathon really represents is a recognition from the foundation that there is a significant amount of developer talent within the Australian shores itself. If we look at Magic Eden, Ren Protocol, if we look at Nexus Mutual, if we look at Immutable, these were all really big crypto unicorns that started with Australian founders, started on Australian shores, and then ended up moving overseas because of perhaps the lack of resources here that can help them. And that's what the hackathon is, and that's what Drift is here to support as well.
You know, this is something that we speak a lot about to our guests here on Cracking Crypto, the idea that Australia, whether to the upside or down, is a difficult place necessarily for a lot of you know, crypto projects to develop, to flourish, to instigate, and it's a mix of, you know, perhaps onerous regulations on the one hand, but also sometimes not enough clarity around regulations on others that sort of drive you know, new projects overseas and fundamentally to other jurisdictions and climates. I mean, as someone working in this space and developing here in Australia, I mean, is that what you find as well? And how do you think we can sort of change the narrative around crypto development, Web3 development in Australia?
I'd actually take a step and probably stand behind the Australian government in the sense that Australian regulation around crypto is actually really, really good. Compared to a place like the United States where perhaps regulators regulate via enforcement. Australia does do a lot of consultations and does take a lot of advice on how we should particularly structure our DeFi regulations. I would say perhaps another reason why protocols typically leave Australia is probably more on the funding and the support side. Venture capital overseas is just significantly bigger with much deeper pockets. They can sustain much higher valuations, can raise capital at much quicker time frames than perhaps they can do here in Australia. And what we're trying to do is, as VCs like Square Peg and like Airtree, like Australian VCs, start to put more of a focus on Web3, we're trying to make sure that that talent no longer leaves our shores and instead comes and stays here instead.
So you mentioned the project, the Hacker House, that's correct, but there's also the summer camp as well. Can you sort of explain what's going on there?
Exactly. So the summer camp is also a first of its kind initiative that we're running alongside Magic Eden. What's really happening is typically when hackathons are run across different countries, they find that it's really hard to activate the local audience with just 5 days. So what Magic Eden and Drift Protocol are trying to do in this sense is to activate the local community. We've partnered with Swinburne, Deakin, Melbourne University and Monash University to sort of direct and funnel their blockchain students over to the summer camp. We'll be running sessions, we'll be doing boot camps and really just connecting them. And if they want to, for example, have connection with a founder that's done what they're looking to do now, or to have connection with like a VC to talk about their project, we're offering a base for them to be able to do that leading up to the hackathon.
Obviously, we've just come out of 2 to 3 years of ostensibly COVID lockdowns and various interruptions to daily life, where a lot of these in-person, IRL events didn't happen. Weren't able to happen,
Exactly.
and it sort of changed the nature of all business interactions, but particularly within the crypto space. It strengthened perhaps the capacity for decentralized collaboration around the world, but also prevented those people from hopping into a room together and having those one-on-one conversations. What value do you think that has in the marketplace now in terms of, developers meeting founders, meeting, regulators, meeting whomever, actually sitting in a room together and having that space, even though they haven't for the last, 2 to 3 years?
I think the value proposition is immeasurable. During COVID, obviously, we had to take steps to make sure that people weren't meeting face-to-face, but the velocity at which you can move in a room full of like-minded people with the same goal, all moving towards a particular purpose, is something that can only really be felt when you're in that room. And that's sort of what we're doing with the summer camp.
Powerful steps to be sure, but I guess just to pull out a little bit and look at the wider crypto market as a whole as it stands right now. Obviously 2022, it's not going to be remembered as the year of the centralized exchange. Let's put it that way. Maybe the year that they were really put up against their paces.
Yeah.
But have DEXs, have decentralized exchanges really stood as the beneficiaries of this? And if so, how do you see that trend developing, over the course of the next year? And particularly, if we were to say speculatively, see a return to form or at least a bit of an uptrend in crypto markets, would that impact people's likelihood to move to the decentralized exchanges, or just stick with what they know, stick with the Binances, stick with the Coinbases of the world?
I think when we consider the debate around centralized and decentralized exchanges, it's really easy to look at how the status quo is right now. But a lot of the background is that centralized exchanges came around during the last bull run, around 2017. And decentralized exchanges were a new product of the DeFi summer that happened in 2020. Decentralized exchanges are about a cycle behind, and because of that, the user experience is a little bit lagging from what their centralized counterparts are at. But I believe there's a recent study by Delphi Digital that showcased decentralized market share at around, I believe it's 0.2%, at 2% of total market share of centralized exchanges, and that's up from 0.02 from the previous year. So it's about a 1,000% increase in market share within a year. And I think as time goes on, and as particularly as the tech grows as well, more and more people will be looking for that experience on decentralized rails.
But do you think that user interface, that user engagement is actually really improving at those dramatic levels? Obviously, there's a degree of comfort that people just need to develop over time as they get used to the idea of a decentralized exchange. But I think of a lot of, I would say, more casual crypto investors who maybe aren't so comfortable working on the tech side of things, who are going to see the difficulties, the complexities, the lack of sort of service and engagement that they're getting from a decentralized exchange, which is sort of the main appeal of a centralized exchange, right? That they offer these human interactions, these capabilities, I mean, is that still not going to keep a lot of people out of the decentralized market?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think a big issue with decentralized experience right now is that it puts the responsibility on the user to get used to this new user experience. The decentralized exchange that wins will be one that replicates the centralized experience, except with the safety and the immutability and the transparency of decentralized infrastructure. So there's still a long way to go for decentralized exchanges, but that's without a doubt where we're moving, and it's without a doubt where a lot of decentralized exchanges are moving as well.
Yeah, certainly it's a complex and layered conversation that I think will take a lot of time to sort of see how these trends play out into the longer term. Unfortunately, so much more I'd love to discuss, but we are out of time for today. So Damien Chen from Drift Protocol, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much, mate.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for today on Cracking Crypto. But we will be with you for the rest of the week at the same time. So make sure you check us out. And of course, The Trade with Carl Rodder is coming up next. In the meantime, I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.